Right, so it's the 21st of December 24. I accidentally ended up smashing my fucking head in on the fucking door handle last night. Accidentally. I was drinking a lot of spirits and beer. I was sort of put some music on because the burning problem was occurring. Life's lost, molested, Sadie said. So that was about an hour or so of burning. And then today is all black and blue cars, busy traffic, to a point where you can't fucking get from one bit to the other. Smash his fucking head in, said. Smash him to fucking pieces, beat him up, and people are taking pictures of me, posing as if they're going to fly for me, so I have to be ready to cut their wrist and throat, because in a fight you have to commit murder nowadays, because that's a modern fight. Not that you have to by choice, but that's the way people have to work it. Black and blue, grey, white cars, smashing his face in. Justin said dark red and black sexual cars, smash him out in case mentally disturbed, said, and I've been photographed by at least 10 people this morning. So there's been sneezes. I've got phlegm coughing, hard phlegm coughing, like dirty top face, ginger hair, nearest to me. More hard wet phlegm and wet coughing from that tough. And several bike only issues with flashing light on and all the time dummy. In general there's a flu and coughing all across the bus, but that's what has to be set up for Christmas, so that you're ill in bed when everyone starts and kicks off. Right, so I've been coughed over, there's been coughs, and obviously the wet's gone in my hair, so I've got to wash my hair when I get back. Rose van, back goes Catalyst, because we need to cause it to be as busy, cause as much mayhem, to cause as much mess and trouble where I am. Right, God's telling me, will you please just come to fucking pieces? Just to let you know, I had just under, about a quarter of a bottle, you know, one of those litre bottles of vodka last night, amongst other drinks, 2 beers, and so that's the naughtiest I've been for drink since 2022. I have actually had more than that in the past. If we go back to the year 2022, the bottle's empty anyway, so there's no more vodka tonight. Going on to the weaker drinks, so I decided to get those little miniature 6.5 drinks and just my beer, and I'm gonna sort of, last night I went overboard, but then again I was burning, so, and the burning problem was making me a bit angry, so that's why I did that. Today obviously I've decided to go for a walk because I got up early-ish. I decided to do this. I did have a lot of activated charcoal last night mixed with with pot noodle, just to get the alcohol out of the body, so that it doesn't rot your insides, and to basically cleanse and do all that sort of stuff. They use it for food poisoning. So yeah, I decided to have some of that last night, and obviously I had a sandwich. Today I could only buy a sandwich. They've only got sugary drinks, and I just don't feel like a drink that's sugary. All the milkshake drinks are out of stock because it's Christmas. So obviously I'm at Stoke Sub Hampden, going up the into the woodland on the paths basically. Yeah, it's a nice walk. The next few days is going to be Yeovil walks because there's no bus service because it's Christmas. The bad news is the threats are increasing in the actual town of Yeovil. They do every year, but this year seems to be like 2021 into 2022. And 2022 into 2023 as well. 2020 last year, 2023 into 2024, there was no threats. Or it wasn't that bad. It all started in January. Right, as far as the weather's concerned, there was a lot of grey cloud about, but as always, they're causing it to be sunny where I am, or if it's not sunny, they're causing the weather to be bright or hazy sunshine. As far as temperatures go, I've known there to be summer temperatures that are identical to this. Not in recent years, obviously, but if you go back, 15 years ago, whatever, or before, I have actually known the evenings of the summer, or possibly even the daytime of the summer, to be this cool. Within the first 3 times I've ever come up here, the very first 3 times, there was a few negative things that were occurring in my path. Obviously I'm in a different section to the first part, but I will mention that because I want to mention it. There was like a bus of mentally ill, the disabled, mentally handicapped people, the ones in the wheelchairs, and they were like on a school trip or something, and there was empty chairs, only for me to discover when I was looking aside that they were having sex. So the teachers were having sex with the mentally handicapped children that were on this route back in the summer of when I first come up here, if I can stop slipping all over the place. So obviously I couldn't take photographic evidence of the bloody wheelchairs or anything like that because it's illegal, but that was one thing that happened. The other thing that happened is there's someone about my age in a sexual relationship with a female. Is a Chinese Oriental, sort of teenage, maybe early 20s. He was in a sexual relationship, and he was roughly my age, kissing and cuddling in my direction. There was also a day where crows or animals were making voice sounds, violating me, telling me that I should be up in the age, regardless of the 2 that were in my direction, with that massive age gap. Regardless of that occurring in my direction, seagulls and crows and birds were making a lot of voice sounds on that specific day, telling me to up the age or in a corrupt way, as it usually occurs. So that's another thing I want to mention. Knife attack laid down, said. I've got to change directions. I didn't realise I'm going through a phase of coughing and sneezing. In total I've been coughed and sneezed at about 20 times today. Not as bad as what it was yesterday, and the day before was a lot worse than that, so one of those days, I can't remember which day it was, so about 50 or 60 people that were timed to do this. Right, 2 girls aged about 8 smoking cannabis, and a baby bounced about in a sling by a rough type person. The type that are going to say, "Oh, fucking do this, I'll do this." Oh yeah, sure, I fucking bearded type. There's a place called Tinker's Bubble, which is a place where you can visit when they have an open day. Well, I'm not exactly sure if it's open today, and it's usually a Saturday when they do have an open day, because I don't have a clue when it's open, because it's not very often open. But just supposing it is, last time and the time before when I went there, I couldn't take pictures because there's a blue sky sexual day with sunshine. Well, there's opening blue sky going around that area coming in this direction, so I'll let you know if it's open or not. On this road you don't get usually more. Due to this year, 2024, we've got to put the record to 50 cars now, but the record before that is 15. Right, so I'm coming up to where the cars are. That reached 23. I've not had to dodge around people in this area either. It's before this year. This year is the first year that's occurred when I packed it with people for me to have to dodge people about just to get from here to there. So that's what I'm doing at the moment. So I made it on the second path, which is the actual track now. Usually, as an average, I pass about no more than about 4 people on this path. Today I've already reached 6. I've only just come onto it. There's been no sneezing, no coughing, no threats. I'm just mentioning it because it's busy. Right, so I nearly went into an argument because someone said, stab him with a HIV syringe, he's dead, molested Sadie, which is not true. So, that's just fucking occurred as well now. I go to use the phone, and obviously the service is out of service, so how handy is that? I will mention something else. Since around the time of the lockdown, I got to put up with all these nasty, rough types of people taking these sorts of walks now. So, since the government told all the rough people, or told the community to start going to woodlands and walking about or doing an hour exercise in the lockdown, well, nowadays you can't go into these woodland places without the roughneck community being there, and that's why I'm always getting fucking trouble, nasty malicious trouble. I've even been threatened to be smashed out, where I've had to tell them that I'll cut their wrist and throat, and to be injected with HIV, weed killer, or any other deadly substances. So you've had all that, and it's been going on since the lockdown. Before that time, you could do these walks. It wasn't perfect, obviously. There were still people that were giving me trouble, but since the lockdown and the government telling people to take foot on these paths, they've become a lot more busier and a lot more nastier. And you've also got the young life community, the people that are mistaking me as Saven, even the teenagers that are in sexual relationships, and they're photographing me saying that you're being shot dead or whatever, mistaking me as that person. So it is getting a lot nastier when I take these walks to these sorts of places, like, or whatever. For being busy in this sort of way, the 2 years in particular, in recent times, are 2022 and this year 2024. I'm not sure what 2025 is going to be like, but 2024 has been quite a bad year. It's not been nowhere near as bad as 2022, because that's probably the nastiest year in my whole life for threats. But it's not slanted in just the year 2022. It's in a section that's sort of October-ish 2021 to around about September 2022, or just after September. So it's in that sort of, so it's a bit slightly in 21 as well, if you get what I'm saying. That time period, that 10, 12 month time period or whatever it is the nastiest I've experienced any trouble in my whole life. There were quite a few occasions where I nearly had to phone the police because people wanted to start on me in Crispin Horn Street. Not only in Crispin Horn Street, but you had the 2 people that went to chase me with a knife in June of 2022, and also you had the bad behaviour in the building as well. This was going back when there's one of the neighbours has been evicted called Matt. I won't give any more details on his name or his friends or anything like that, because it's not the right thing to do. He's not friends with those specific people now, but it was very rough back in that time. And obviously he got evicted because he tried knifing down the staff door, so I don't need to say anything else, that's not irrelevant. He did, however, escape prison, is it, or whatever you want to call it, but there must be some circumstantial issues that were involved, so but obviously he's lost his place, so I don't know where this person's living, and obviously, like I said, it's not my problem, you see, so I don't need to mention it. So just giving you some sort of backstory to make sense of what I was shit fucking on the fucking damn fucking floor, just tripping and slipping. This fucking, what happens is that they keep on making it fucking torrential rainstorms followed by bloody sunshine. It's making the ground wet. Anyway, I finished on that subject. It's a time in another loud bike, time to Itchy Bell End, and I don't like speaking about things like this because it's personal, but you know, when it happens all the time, it takes its toll and it can make you very, very unhappy and very angry, because obviously it's persistent. It's been going on like this since 2008, but in 2008 there's only half the bikes on the road. Not long after that time, or as soon as I moved to Burnham-on-Sea, they managed to do a whole year where they timed a bike to an erection or go into a toilet or whatever of that year. And they've also done it, constructed to keep it timed to each erection, no matter where I go, including on holiday around London in 2015 with my mum. And even when I visited my brothers, they managed to do it there. This is before I moved. So how they're getting this constructed across the UK, I do not know. And it also happens at the Isle of Wight, which means taking. Well, I guess there is a road that goes through, but you can also take a ferry. So the thing is, how are they doing it? How is it being constructed and controlled around me in every part of the UK? It's like the setups. If we go back to 2015. To get these setups rigged up around me, they've tried smashing police cars to pieces, and there was one Conservative party car which is full of politicians. They even tried smashing a car with politicians to pieces as a hit to try and rig up this setup or organise this control force around me. So whoever's doing it must be some pretty negative minded people that don't give a fuck about their own people. And the other thing I want to mention is, when I was in London, these setups were controlled around me and constructed just like they are when I was walking around Bridgewater, Burnham, or when I'm walking around Yeovil. Constructed around me, controlled, like wording on vehicles in a controlled way, 24/7, every single day. And it's been like this every single day. There were days where it wasn't too bad. We go to the years of 2005 when I started to notice this getting really bad, until about 2010. There were days where you could just have one page of problems, and there's actually sometimes in that time period there were days where I didn't need to state problems, but it's extremely rare, and it's closest to sort of 2007 and 2008 and 2006 maybe, and obviously 2005 when it wasn't too bad. 2004 I was in a mental hospital for 6 months and homeless, so I didn't notice it being too bad then either. And I was writing stuff down here and there, but these were on sheets that I chucked away. I prayed to God, you see. It doesn't exist, but I prayed and I thought, I can't remember how many sheets there's, 150 to 200 sheets, maybe 300 sheets, very small writing. So I decided to chuck it all out, and within 2 weeks things got worse and worse, and then it got 50 times worse, and it's remained the same, just got worse straight through that time period right through to now, and it's just worsening and worsening. So that's what you get for praying to God. The next problem is all these setups seem to be done on the grounds of sexuality when I've not had anyone in my whole life. But going back to London, when I visited with my mother because she had to go there, and obviously there was a second time I went there for a dating agency that couldn't help me because obviously they only have munters and single mothers. Speed dating agencies, they've all gone under because there's not enough not enough females that are single to put on these events for people to meet up with people in these speed dating places. And this goes back over 10 years ago. Bristol used to have them. And the other thing is, ladies are moaning about people's age gaps. So if you've been sexually abused as a child, and a young lady is about the age of someone who sexually abused you as a child or 10 years older, they just tell you you're a sick cunt and telling you to up the age when you've never had anyone in your whole life. So it's like that. Before 2004 or 2003 area, women, even in their teens, late teens, would go with people my age, if not 10 years older. They go with people any age. It wasn't seen as a problem, really. There's been a few that even back then which would moan about the age gap or whatever, but it's not like it is today. And circumstantial grounds, like if you've been sexually abused and never had anyone in your life, you're being treated like everybody else. You're a fucking sick cunt if you don't go with people in their 40s. You know, it's like that. So, anyway, let's go back to dating and explain what's happened over time quickly. So, prostitutes, they work the same way. Identical ways. They moan about the age, tell you you're a sick cunt and tell you you've got to go with the zombie type of faces, regardless if you haven't had sex in your whole life. So, you've got that problem. I'm tripping on a bloody mud everywhere. This is what happens, you get these torrential rainstorms and then it just makes it difficult to walk anywhere. But there's nothing you can do about it. That's what it is. Torrential rainstorms or heavy rain, rain or blue skies and sun. They're doing away with overcast days because the government don't like overcast days because people take negative pictures or moody dull effects or mystical looking pictures, and the government don't like it because it doesn't make a modern suggestion. This is why they're taking down all the old street lights and all, changing the old buildings, changing the way lighthouse beacons look, or putting helicopter landing pads on the lighthouse beacon towers, because obviously they want to modernise everything because they don't want that old look, because they're trying to disguise history. Anyway, let's get back to some stuff that I was going to mention. So back in the 1990s, obviously I didn't know any prostitutes in the 90s, and obviously you had to be careful because most of them have HIV or whatever. But you go back to the 1990s, it's going to sound pretty sad this, but it is actually true. You could get children about 8 or 9, 10 that were prostitutes making money out there, and they would be having sex with adults in their 10s, their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, you fucking name it. No, I don't recall there being any child prostitutes in my whole life. I've never seen one. All this is in the cities like London, Birmingham, Manchester and that sort of place. So that sort of died out even in the 90s. I think it was around about the late 90s you would never hear of this, because people were moaning about the age gaps even in the 90s, but it's how do I put it, people became more strict and the sort of way people are sort of changed, but it wasn't really until the 2000s where it got really bad. So if a lady was 18 back in the 90s, obviously because I only had enemies and had no friends or whatever, or they were all in sexual relationships, they were all dictating me to go with this Lisa Pike even back then, and she's not exactly the very bestest looking of people, and obviously because of my age today they're actually telling me that that's the type you're supposed to be with, that's what people look like, and that really is what people do look like, and I don't take to that. So that's what I mean, they fuck my sexual life up, and since they've done that they think they can get away with it, so they time lookalikes to people who sexually abused me as a child tying to an erection and take the piss with Spill Your Guts t-shirt, a baby bouncing about in a sling like a fat body, with a man with a tiny baby bouncing about and laughing, and then Make Love Not War t-shirt followed by Age is just a number, it's love that counts, and then another t-shirt saying over 50 is too old, under 50 is fine. And they're just new press t-shirts, so when they hit the streets, which are already happening, when I'm 50 in 5 years time or whatever, they fuck my life up, because these t-shirts are going to stop me getting anyone under the age of 50. So that's not their plan though. Their plan is to stop me getting anyone altogether. So they change the age of consent from 16 to 18 when I knew Susan and she was 17, just turned 17. That turned her against me because of this age of consent being changed by the government. Obviously she's a sexual type, and then obviously in that 1 year time period she found someone and became pregnant, and then they dropped the age back to 16 again from 18. So they've been pissing about like that, using the music industry, the media, and changing the age of consent of sex to stop me getting anyone before putting it back down again. And also putting the age up on alcohol and alcohol and fags, knowing that everyone's going to be a single mother when they're 25. And some people actually in the UK in particular seem to develop that negative look when they reach about the age of 25 for some reason. In foreign countries, about 55, 60 maybe, before they develop that rough skin look or that unhygienic appearance, tough face, or that obesity look, which I don't take to. But here in the UK, for some reason, people were only just over 25 before they developed that negative look. But you go into foreign countries where people are a bit more cleaner, have a healthier lifestyle, eat cleaner food, have a better life, you tend to find that they still have that nice sexy sort of looking appearance and smooth skin right up to about 55 or 60. But here in the UK, there's not much older than 25, and they tell you you're a sick cunt if you don't go to anyone over the age of 40. They moan about the age gaps. In foreign countries that's starting to increase now. People are starting to moan about the age gaps, but nowhere near as what it is in the UK. I've had people, these are real people that have worked in the military in the US. They're in their early 20s and they're with men in their 50s, and it's seen as normal. There's no problem. They see it as normal over there, and these are good looking people. Now and again you get the people that are a bit fussy about the age gap, and that's becoming a more regular thing, but it's a lot worse now than it's ever been before in the whole history of people moaning about age gaps right through the beginning of time. So let's get back to prostitutes again. Obviously in the 90s they didn't moan about age gaps and they would give you sex. But obviously I didn't want to risk getting HIV or anything like that, and I didn't know any prostitutes either, so that wasn't the case. So a man would get it how he wants it, so you pay for it, and most of them would have proper sex, which means hardcore sex, and that's what most men want when they have a prostitute, is hardcore sex. But you do have those that want safe sex, which means you wear a condom. So prostitutes can work both ways depending on that person, so they might charge a bit more if you don't wear a condom or whatever. In a modern time it's a lot different. You don't even get this. Since about 2004 they put the age gap up. A lot of the people that they tell me to go with, if we look at 2000, just move on a bit further than that, because the price, didn't know the prices until about 2006. So your average prostitute, the type that they tell me to go with, these people, they usually charge £30 an hour to £60. Even back then, the prices were high, so you're looking at 300 quid for a sexy type. But obviously I've never had anything. I'll get to that story in a minute. There's people on the path come and stop me having a fucking say as usual. Right, the dogs are here to bite, so nothing you can do about it. Right, sorry about that. So that would be your average price. When you reach that sort of time period, the 2000s in particular, the early 2000s, you have people on smartphones or whatever, mobile phones or whatever, so all that technology was coming in. They were going to call it the sex phone, because initially they thought that it would be a tool where everyone that has a smartphone would be in a sexual relationship or would be with a woman, so they wanted to call it the sex phone instead of the smartphone. But because it sounds politically incorrect, they named it the smartphone and not the sex phone. And I know about this information because it was on the news, on television back in that time period. But anyway, more prostitutes were being moany. I wouldn't say they're moaning about the age, so even if you're in your 40s or possibly 50s, you could just about still get a teenager or a prostitute teenager, or a woman in their early or mid 20s. It was a little bit of a change. Obviously people were moaning about age gaps, that was coming in, but it wasn't by everybody. I'm only going by information I've seen on the internet as well, my mind. So I'm just getting an overall view, which I've collected, and I'm letting you know what I've collected, and I'm able to give the story of what I've experienced then. So they were still giving sex, but obviously a lot of them preferred safe sex, which means wearing a condom rather than hardcore sex, where you don't wear a condom. Not long after that is where they started moaning about the age gaps and whatever, and also not long after that is where prostitutes change their ways, where they only give you a blowjob with a condom on, and that is it. They don't give you any other sex. but it gets even better. So that went on for a few years, and even in the time period when I tried asking for sex or whatever, that was the case then as well. So then they say it's about £700 if you want a proper shag, and they say that's only for 10 minutes. So it went through a phase where that occurred, that these people that were doing that, although they're Asian, they were, well, actually some of them were in their teens, they did actually say that they would go with a man in their 40s, which is my age, when it came to the Asian type. But that, take into account, we're still a bit far back in time to what I'm about to mention in a minute. So for me, there's nothing. It's just that one person who's nicknamed Jeanette, who looks like Lisa Pike. In actual fact, she's slightly more negative looking than Lisa Pike. And I wasn't actually going to answer the door, but I was sort of here and there, because you know, at the time I was kind of suicidal or whatever. I just felt really low and got really bad in that time period. So same in 2003, 2004 period as well. That you know, I let her in to scam me, and that's what happened. I wouldn't say she was as young as what she said. So she said she was 18. To me, she looked like she was in her 20s at least. Or if not, then she had the appearance she was in her 20s, because she wasn't that good looking. She was pretty much very negative. She had sort of spotty skin and quite negative, to be fair. But obviously, you know, back then I would have never forgiven God. You know, even she did about 6 moves on me to film it, and that was it. It was just a scam me of 790 quid or something like that, just under 800 quid. Pretended that her car was broken, but she didn't just pose as a prostitute. She said she was a single woman looking for a serious relationship at the same time. Since that time, I've never really sort of used dating sites, because it's cost me over £10,000. You've got to take into account, it might sound a lot of money, but going back, when you take that into a time period of so many years, and obviously you've got to take into account I was using all my benefit money, you know, all my dole money, you know, unemployment support allowance or whatever you call it, that sort of money, you know, the money that you get from the government to pay for these things. And then obviously 2018 onwards I rarely paid at all. There's a few things I paid here and there, but not much. But it's all negative now. Anyway, let's move on in time. So we go through the stage like if we reach 2015 area to sort of, like I said, it's just blowjobs, no sex. Also, that road, there's the record-breaking number of cars on that road is actually 5, and that was at the beginning of this year. And I think 2022 there was somewhere around about that as well. That road only goes to a dead end, by the way. But like I said, when they control traffic, they try and get organised as much as they possibly can around me. Anyway, let's get back to this prostitute problem, shall we? So it's been much the same up till the lockdown, but the price has changed. It's slightly different to say 2004, 5, 6 area. So your average negative looking person, or the people that look like Lisa Pike, they're still being quite fair with their prices, but the problem is I don't take to that price, that type, and they charge something like 30 to 60 quid for a half hour to an hour or whatever, depending on the person. They want a quick fuck, they want money. And when it comes to someone that looks like the Lisa Pike type, they do charge pretty low prices for those that prefer to go with that type. People, if you were to take my attraction or sort of look at my face, obviously I'm a man, not a woman, but your average woman, say, when I asked a question to this Asian person who was in her mid-20s going back to 2015, I said, how much would, because she saw my face, I upped the face, and she said that a man, I said if it was a bloke, just having a sort of joke with her and laugh, I said, how much would a bloke charge, it just supposing there was, for the type of person that I look like. And this Asian lady said, you're looking at about £500 an hour for a man that looks like myself. Anyway, if I go back to the issue of these ladies, rather than fellas, the average price, say you want a sort of blonde, teenage, smooth skinned girlfriend or whatever, for the night or whatever, it's somewhere between £1,000 and £1,500 for the really sexy type for sex. If you want sort of a smooth skin, dark hair, brunette type, or that type, I was sort of bound about £500 to £700. But if we move on in time, the prices change and it's all fucked up. And I mean, I'm not making this up. Anyone can search it, so they can do their own research if they want by checking out these sites. But since the lockdown, prostitutes don't even meet up anymore or give you a blowjob. They only talk to you on the phone. But it gets better than that, because I've seen some comments on there. I haven't gone for this myself, but some of the comments have shocked me. They're actually telling people that if they speak to a lady that's sexual and they're over the age of like 30 or 40, they're going to get their head smashed to pieces or be beaten up just for speaking on a phone to a prostitute, and that's without meeting up or engaging in any sexual activity. So the prices are the same, obviously, maybe a bit higher because of the lockdown, just for a phone call, which is known as a garden stick gnome or candlestick telephone. That's basically all you get. Obviously there are some people that you had phone lines back in the 90s where people were doing it just for, you know, getting the thrill from a phone call, but when it comes to prostitutes or meeting up or like that, is unbelievable today. It really is. And the problem is, all these people out there are single mothers when they're in their teens, even the mentally disabled. And I can't go with the mentally disabled. The problem is, throughout my time, I've noticed even the most handicapped people, even the Down syndromes, the ones that are sexual looking, that is, with smooth skin or whatever, you know, the hotter type of attraction, they actually are in relationships with normal people. When it comes to the Lisa Pike type, or the people that are negative, then obviously they're all single. So it's interesting, this, because these types of people that are with these mentally disabled people, like the Down syndromes or people like that, it's surprising me, because some of these people that are in relationships with that type are actually rough people, or actually very, you know, when you tend to find, if you use a dating site as well, that all these people that are single are fellas, not females. And the ones that are female are all these zombie looking types, the ones that I don't take to. Right, Crow says, ha ha, molested Sadie. Right, Crow saying very dangerous. I will say this, I smashed the church window out, only a section of it, a very small piece, because I lost my temper going back several days ago because of animal voice sounds coming out in a corrupt way. So basically they were telling me to fuck people that raped me as a child, telling me I've had sex or claiming that I raped Sadie, and telling me that my life's gone and I'm being smashed up with my back being fucking smashed in. And I thought, if God's going to start making shit stirring and claiming this and claiming that, I got a little bit unhappy about it. And obviously I've not done this since 2011, but I ended up smashing a bloody church window, so I did actually lose my temper over it. Because, you know, God's not verifying the facts before fucking insulting me or claiming that I've had sex with Sadie Dando. You've got to look at the truth, you know. Ricky Hux, possibly. I don't know. Jamie Fenlon. And Bradley is his mate, but she's actually in a relationship with Bradley. But, anyway, I want to go on to the next subject of what I was speaking about, like, just now. So, going back to the 2000s, just before the 2000s, the late 90s, early 2000s, and a bit past the 2000s, no later than 2005, there were people, you know, that snatched females that I could possibly know or whatever. And obviously people have told me, even some of the rough people that turn friendly, you've got to take into account but that before I go any further, this being mentioned stopped in 2008 onwards. So as soon as you reach the end of 2008, people didn't say this and it's never been said again. And that's what I'm about to tell you now. So basically, enemies or people, whatever, said there's no way you're going to get anyone because you're mentally disabled. Is saying you're going to have to go with my daughter when she grows up, and saying that sort of stuff. Saying, and basically even they were saying that they're all single mothers as well. You're just not going to get no one. And this was when people were not all one-sided like they are today. But the problem is, back in the times when they were saying that, this was before people started moaning about age gaps, or moaning about this, or moaning about that, because they looked at it in a way where even people in their 40s could get a lady that's aged 18 or whatever, possibly 16 if we go back to the 90s when they were sort of talking about this, the late 90s. No, that's not possible. That won't be possible. That's not going to happen. This is, it's too late for that because the way people have altered and the way people have changed through time. So getting sex is literally, they've cut my throat. So the only sex I'm ever going to have is people that raped me as a child. It's as simple as that. You've got these few that go back to the Wayne business, but you've got to take into account, I wouldn't have documented the Wayne business in the earliest Deep Depression page life story packs if I considered that to be good enough. You know, you've got to take into account what you've been through, and then look at it on that principle as well, and the way and how sly my life's gone and all the rest of it. You can't just say, oh, we'll fucking put you down as this, put you down as that, that's good enough, or whatever. I mean, they're fucking moaning with setups, claiming that I went on a girl's back when I was a child when I was swimming, and they're using that as an excuse to say, oh, that's good enough for sex, so now we can hang you and rip you to pieces for a lifetime. They're fake, but that's what they do. They suggest that. You know, and then they're not taking into account how many times you've been sexually abused, when that's probably only about a 2-minute thing that you've done in a swimming pool, you know, and that's not even sex, that's just where someone's got piggybacked you in the swimming pool, whatever. They're using that as an excuse to rip me to pieces, you know. They're looking at any possible thing to twist, to use this action against me, or force control to do whatever they have to fucking do all the time. Something else that's annoyed me in recent times is the church. Because what's happened is, earlier on I mentioned that I chucked out all my Deep Depression life story packs, anything. I can't remember how many pages it is. I do know how many pages it is, because it's documented in my life story Deep Depression page. But you'd be spending fucking years trying to find it, because of how much information's on that fucking life story pack. But I think it's no more, 300 be the maximum it was. I don't think it was more than 300 sheets, in very tiny writing. This is little writing, really little writing. Of problems. I ripped it all up, and I was praying to God, and I thought God to help me, so I give God, and then my life got worse and worse and worse. Back in the lockdown period, I started going to church, but let me give you a full story, because my life's got nastier since I've gone to church. So initially I was at my nan's because I was getting gritty eyes that were feeling like your eyes are being forced open and outwards by energy weapons when I was living at my old place at Burnham-on-Sea. Because of this I had to camp. But when we came to the end of days, 2 weeks before I moved, or around that sort of time when I moved, the neighbours were actually fine with me. Because the thing is, we had the Cevennes threat come in, and people were thinking I was Cevennes, and police came around and because of all the problems, and when they found out what my proper name is, in actual fact, I left on a happy note. I was actually saying, or speaking, we were saying alright in the corridor, whatever, the actual days before I moved, and they didn't even have a clue that I was moving, so it wasn't because of that. But anyway, when I was at Nan's, I was coming across, I was looking for out-of-body experience videos, watching near-death experiences and going through all that shit and trying to find a way out, or find the possibility of how to go through portals, dimensions, or to transfer into a nicer place, because I was in a sort of mood of life being all shit in there. You know, so, but YouTube led me on to different videos, and there's I recall one of them. I got a collection together, and I thought this looks scary, so I designed a video called Armageddon Wake Up Call, and I put a whole load of videos together and made a couple of hour documentary or something like that, however long it is, I can't remember now. So I designed that myself using bits and pieces from YouTube. But at the same time, what sort of really got me into the religious side of the thing is when I was looking at out-of-body experiences, or time portals, or time travel, or stuff like that, it led me on to these children that are having experiences with Jesus Christ, paranormal, which is known. I didn't have a clue what a vision was or a rapture back in 2021, and there's a couple of girls, the earliest ones, I do actually remember the names of the actual children of those rapture dreams in those videos in the early days. One was what's his let's just think. You had, I think it's Alice, which is the girl with glasses on one video, which I put together on that Armageddon wake up call Armageddon wake up call video that I did. Another one was Emilia, the 7-year-old precious girl. What was the fucking person's name? She goes by Raviet or Raviet something or rather on Facebook and YouTube. She has a daughter, a 7-year-old daughter, which went through, I've forgotten what the name is, that had a close encounter with Jesus Christ through a vision, rapture dream, or whatever you want to call it. And I don't believe in all this rapture dream, not anymore anyway. I was a bit brainwashed at the time because I thought this is interesting and this is unusual. Anyway, I started to get into all that, and my dad said I can get hold of a Bible for you if you want, so he did. So I read sections of the Bible, and I just tend to find it was a load of boring information, because I was just going through verses and probably turned to the unlucky verses which look boring and uninteresting. So I continued to watch these videos, more were popping up, and I started to go into looking at these druggies and drug dealers that have had rapture dreams and visions. It's sort of interesting, and other people like the military, people that have had dreams or visions of Jesus and whatever, and watching more kids that have having close encounters with Jesus. And then I noticed that there was one where it said Justin's going to hell, and that annoyed me a little bit, and that was under the name Lily. It was a baby that was on there at the time that was posted on there, whenever that was. Obviously it's a girl today. Then there's a Korean artist that was painting stuff, that was making the suggestion of specific people in hell when she drawed the visit to hell in a rapture dream or a close encounter or out-of-body experience or whatever you want to call it. And unfortunately there's got a picture of someone that looks like Stephanie Hill, Stephanie Jill, ripping me to pieces in hell, cutting my whatever off, when I've never had sex with her or never been in a relationship with her. So then I thought to myself, God needs to get the facts right before saying that he's going to put me in hell for having sex or raping this specific lady when I've never been with her. So I thought, why is God making a mistake, and why is there paintings of me? And there was also a painting of one of my friends called Andrew that I used to know from Elmwood School, and I was a bit annoyed by that as well. And there's also other paintings that they're drawing which seem to be very linked, or very closely linked, to people around me or my family that seem to be in hell. And I find this rather interesting, considering this person has no idea who I am, and when, not at all, no connection, and she was getting these visions and sights of me and my family in hell, basically, and all my friends or people that are linked to me. That annoyed me a little bit, but it didn't I've always kept that in mind. So I started, when I was camping, before I moved from Burnham-on-Sea to Yeovil, I was offered to go into the Barrow Church, and I went in for a coffee morning, and I also went in for the church service. So it's church service initially, but I went several Sundays, but then obviously I came to the stage where I moved to Yeovil, and it was new to me, and I continued this by going to St John's Church in Yeovil, where I was doing more things, and then I went there on a regular basis every Sunday evening. And I noticed that in the time as I was going there, even when I was praying in the church, a crow or seagull go ha ha ha, or make voice sounds in a nasty malicious pattern or sexual pattern in a far-fetched way, anything from telling me to fuck people that raped me as a child, to saying that I'm being beaten to death, to being knifed down, to being injected with HIV, to being shot and being sexually abused as a child in my next life or whatever. It would continue doing that. Or when a loud bike occurred, times of erection, when you're in the middle of doing a prayer in the church, I see you, ha ha Justin, ha ha, in that sort of way, really digging in, you know, saying my name as well, obviously. But I don't have any, you know, every time I would go to audio record the evidence of these problems, God's doing it in a sly way where I can't get the evidence, even though it's occurring. Other people have heard these voice sounds. If we go back to when I was living in Bridgewater, most of my enemies were talking about it at the Palace nightclub and saying that God has turned. I mean, come the years of 2012 and 2013, there's literally hardly any threats at all, if any threats. Maybe just a few that passed here and there. It was actually calm, yeah. I mean, it really sort of started to die down, because what happened is they found out that they were making stuff about the Stephanie business, and that sort of died out. Then you had the Sadie Dando business and Ian Dando, and then that died out in 2011. And obviously come 2012 you had the Sally business come in, like, you know, saying that you're chasing Sally or whatever. And then that eventually died out. And then I moved to Burnham-on-Sea. But let's get back to moving to Yeovil, shall we? Go back to the story of the church. So I started going to the church, and I noticed that people were threatening to smash me in, getting violent with me, walking to the church and returning every time I went there. It was happening every time, and it was getting nastier and nastier. And Seagull was going ha 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 at times it was occurring. And then I started to notice that I felt like I was sliding down into a sort of fire or hell. It sort of gave that impression of what you're praying and this is occurring. You're in a church, you're studying the Bible, putting your faith in Christ, and you're suddenly getting that feeling where it wants to push you down. It was like, not like a drop straight down, it's like a slide. It's like something that's sloping you down in a slide into a negative burning place. You can sort of interpret it wasn't the sort of feeling like a demon. You know, like when you go into a graveyard, you get that cold, icy feeling where it feels like it wants to grab hold of you and take you down. It was slightly different. It was more of a sort of way I just described. Well, in schoolrooms, which is where they have religious places, it's a place where I think they call it schoolrooms because when the Sunday church service is on, it's a place that they take the children. Because if you're under the age of 15 or something like that, they're not old enough to read the Bible, not these days anyway, so they take them into another room to play activities or do whatever while the church service is on. Going back in the 1990s and before, you probably didn't have all this because people were more intellectual in head. I mean, let's look at me buying Dance Trans Randall Mission Control Jungle mixtape when I was 12 years of age, coming up 13, so I think that just says it all. People today, they would consider themselves as a child right up until they're in their 20s possible. You've got people that are... Right, for example, if you go on Facebook, you'll find that people in their 20s have got their room, you know, in general, you know, even on news feeds or YouTube, you tend to find that all these people in their mid-20s, and they're sort of all got Barbie doll pictures or unicorns as their picture on the wall. Going back to the 1980s and the 1990s, as soon as you're about 10 or 11, you grew up. It's different. It's a lot different back in those days. However, although that might be the case, the attitude or the sarcasm or the accent of people today is a lot more sinister than what it would have been back then. So it's worked the opposite on one thing and the other way for the other, what I just mentioned. But let's get back to this church business, shall we? So yeah, that continued for a bit. And then obviously I come across this person called Tim, but I knew Tim from the earliest days. So it was about 6 months I was going before he actually spoke to me. So, because in the early days that I was going there, I was being mistaken as Savannah. It wasn't a friendly start. It was pretty negative. And also the very first 2 weeks that I moved to Yeovil, there's 30 to 40 people that were getting nasty with me in Tesco's in Yeovil. And also, most of those people that were giving me trouble were mistaking me as that person called Sven. And you've got to take into account, it's 9 years ago before I actually went to Yeovil, and if we go back 9 years ago, I've never had the threat. It's before the Sven threat came in, which was in 2016, 2017, I can't remember what year it was now, but it would have been at the end of one of those years, just after Christmas, because I was laughing at the threat, because I was listening to old school jungle tracks on the beach, and even some of the rough people knew who I was, and even they agreed that, they sort of laughed when I said that I'm being mistaken as someone goes, Sven, who's that? They said they haven't got a fucking clue, you know, and they're smoking their weed thinking, oh yeah, but you've got to take into account, when I thought it was funny back in that time, people mistaking me as that person who's pathetic, I didn't know that the threat was going to get as serious as what it has today, where everyone's taking photos of me wanting to kill me or whatever. In 2022 alone, which is the nastiest, where it's between late 21 really, and sort of just out to September 2022 sort of, is that, but I say it's 2022, I call it the year 22, but it was actually in 21 as well. It wasn't the full of 2022, if you get what I'm saying. It's the most nastiest and most direct threats and most dangerous situations I've been in that specific year in my whole life. We had anything from 40 to 100 and about 140 roughly people photograph me almost every day in that time period. That for the amount of threats, and could be that for coughing and sneezing in my face as well. On days could have reached 200 when it came to that. Nearly every day in that time period there was at least 40 threats. It was a really bad year. I mean, this year at the moment it's starting to change since November the 1st. It's getting nasty again, but at the moment the two things that seem to be bad at the moment, although it might be half or near enough half of what was happening in 2022, you're still getting up to about 20 or maybe 40 people photograph you in one day, and that in threats. So it's not perfect at the moment, it is worsening. But anyway, let's get back to Tim. Tim is who I knew at the church. So he had communication with me about 6 months after I started going there, and he said, we went into some conversations, and he was saying it wasn't until until he reached 31 or 32 that he found his partner. He didn't know my age at the time, and in that sort of time period I was still growing kind of strong, but I was realising that things weren't improving or anything like that. So I was talking to him, and in the beginning days that he knew me, he says, well, have you got a job, have you tried doing a job or whatever? And I thought, that's a bit of an insult when he said you don't even know my life or had a background history of how my life's been. I mean, try and do work is not possible. Temporary or voluntary jobs or anything I've done in the past has involved a police beating now, or when it comes to proper work, or if I've been helping on work, I've had to leave because either neighbours or people mistaking me as Savannah or whatever. You just can't do it. And the amount of trouble you get, and obviously health issues as well, is not great, because I do have a few health issues. I mean, the future could change, but the thing is, I'm not going to change my future without a partner, and it's going to have to be someone sexy enough for me to fancy and have sex with. That's not going to be possible now. There's one person who's known as Funny Eyes. She's, I don't know what age she is. She's definitely around about the age of 60. That's back then, so she could be about 65 now. She was actually quite sexy, but finding a granny that's single, that's not a single mother, that's 60, that looks like that, you're looking at about 1 in 1 million to have that sort of body and smoothness in the face. Because she had to be honest, she had like the skin of an 18-year-old, and she's 60. But finding a person that's got that is almost, it's going to be literally impossible. That's the thing. But anyway, Tim, as I said, he fucking hell, got the catalytic converter control, hang on, got to go back the other way. He said it wasn't until 31, 32 that he found someone. Back at that time I would have been 41 or whatever age it is, 42. So I was 10 years on top of him. And he said God helps everybody. And he said he only had to go to church for a couple of years for that to happen. And he says, but he really truly believed in God, and God helped him. Well, I went, the other sort of time period would be roughly just a little bit under that, but it was still good enough for, he said, because he didn't know how long I went to the church. Well, he didn't know I went to, and he said, God will be helping in your life now. He says, you're starting to work well, you're praying to him, he says, going to start changing, and you'll get a girlfriend or whatever. And said, God will help you with your needs, your wants. 6 months passed after that, life got a lot worse, and we just went downhill. It just got nastier and nastier. And then obviously we'd be in the sort of 22 period as well, when it's that really nasty year. And then obviously I was almost attacked in Bridgewater because someone wanted to smash me up with a knife on the railway track in Highbridge. Now, I don't know who this is connected to, but I do remember putting on a leaflet asking if Gemma Ferguson wants to come for a coffee in the shop, which was in a private letter after I moved to my place, shortly after I moved from Burnham to Yeovil. But she phoned me up saying I was a sick bastard, saying, who the fuck do you think you are? You're sick as fuck, and saying, what, a little 31-year-old woman, you want a little woman when you're fucking 40, you're fucking sick as fuck, whatever it was she said on the phone. Believe it or not, when my parents were together, proper parents, there's exactly the same age gap as if I was to go with this Gemma. But obviously she's one of those that moans about the age gap, and I told you we're in a different time, so people are a lot more nasty about it. But the problem is, she's saying I don't even fucking know you when she phoned me up. When I was speaking to her on a regular basis on the beach and during the lockdown, which I've mentioned many times. And obviously when I hid a CD pack in the sand dunes temporarily, I don't do that anymore obviously because they end up damaged, roots grow over them, or they end up waterlogged and unplayable, so I don't hide anything. I mean, anything you hide out is literally, it's going to have to be something that can get wet. And I mean, you get a box full of water if you hide anything out, or if you wrap anything up, it just end up soaked wet in water. It's absolutely pointless. So if you put a USB stick out, for example, be prepared that it's not going to work ever again in just a few months. So all that ended when it comes to doing stuff like that. But what I will say is, I said I was digging for bait. She said, don't fall down there, will you? Because it's quite a deep hole, it's about 2 foot, but it was sand dunes, and she was joking about it. Obviously, regardless of that, she said she doesn't know me and she's got nasty. But some people are making the suggestion that this person who tried to attack me gave the name Scott, could be linked to this prostitute that I mentioned earlier on that scammed me deliberately. Neighbours where I used to live, or someone said in the corridor, I'm not going to give names because obviously, but what I will say is, since that conversation occurred from that specific neighbour, there was no more gun sounds and there was no more problems from that specific neighbour right through until I moved from there, since that 2018 period, after they were talking about that prostitute that scammed me. They think it was caused by Dan. I'm not sure if they're on about my ex-mugger Dan Morgan, or whether they're on about a different Dan, but they're saying it's because they needed money to move from one place, or one of the other neighbours to move into that place. I'm not sure which way around it is, and they were saying that I was mentally ill, so, and they were sort of having a conversation saying they're using him, and they know what they're up to, and saying they know she's not a very good looking woman, you know, a good looking whatever, and sort of they're just saying stuff like that, and saying he's a fool if he does, he's a fool if what he did, you know, and said all that, and said, what age is he? And they obviously just did say my age because they knew my age, and they said, and just say unbelievable basically. So they had some sort of sympathy even though they didn't really know me. So you could hear that. Obviously I've never sort of exposed this information because I don't want to cause trouble, but you know, it doesn't bother me what they said. So if they did ever capture this information, I just say I'm happy with that. I said it's not a problem, you've given me no trouble, there's no gun sounds after that time period or whatever, and you know, no threats or banging or whatever, The only thing you did have was the eye problem, the burning from the eye, but that wasn't done from that specific neighbour. It's when the 2 other neighbours moved in. So anyway, let's get back to this church business for Tim, shall we? So obviously 6 months passed down the line, obviously, because obviously I had to go into that story to make sense of what I wanted to say. So 6 months passed down the line. After going to church, my life started to worsen, things got worse, and obviously I mentioned what happened when I went to church and all the rest of it. So I told Tim what my age was just under 6 months, so it's nearly a year that I went there then, and I said, well, I've never had anything in my whole life, and I said, Jesus isn't helping. I said, my life's getting worse, and I said, God, and he said, he doesn't know what's going on, he thinks, and then he sort of says, it could be spirits attacking you, saying that, and saying, are you sure you're praying right? I said, doing exactly what all the rest of it, and I started to lose faith shortly after that. And then I spoke to him and I said, what about a girlfriend? He says, God will help you in time. He said, it wasn't until I was 31 or 32 I found his girlfriend. I said, yeah, but the problem is I'm 41 or 42, whatever it was at the time. And since that time onwards, Tim has not spoken to me properly, right through to now. He just said one thing, and I said, maybe God will help you in your next life, maybe your life starts again. And I thought to myself, I didn't tell him this, I said, yes, but I've been sexually abused as a child, not had anyone, which I didn't tell him, but and now it's very rare anybody speaks to me in that church. If I do go to that church, it's not for the religious side of things anymore, it's for the entertainment purposes and to make me feel a bit better when I'm feeling down and there's nothing else to do. And obviously I ripped up Bibles, and it's caused a lot of problems. So obviously you get the feeling of hell. But one thing that they did do, which is just before that, was back in the schoolrooms, as I was mentioning earlier. I don't think I covered that subject yet. But they said, are you ready to accept Jesus into your life? And I said, yeah. Take into account this would have been in the first 6 months of when I went to that church or whatever. And then they said, right, you're now a Christian. And I thought to myself, no. I thought to myself, I didn't know that's what you meant. At the time that they were doing this, there was an evil entity around me, like a dark force, the type you get in an evil in a graveyard. So a bit different to the one like the slope that I was experiencing in the church. I thought, well, why is there a demonic force around me in an evil way? And why are you trying to make me a Christian without me knowing about it? When I said Jesus into your life, you accepted it. And I thought, well, I didn't know that's what you do. And I thought, well, no, you can disconnect it. So I thought to myself, how do I get out of this now? How do I escape being a Christian? Or escape, how do you detach from it? So I started looking, I couldn't find any answers to anything at all. And then finally, this year in 2024, I found an answer of what you need to do. You need to go into a church and say, Jesus, no, and that will unblock you and free you from being a Christian, and you'll no longer be a Christian, you'll be back to an atheist. That's all you need to do. Go into a church. I guess you can do it at home, but it would make more sense to do it in church, because that's the sort of place where they probably made you a Christian in the first place. You just go in there, sit on the bench and say, Jesus, no. That's all you need to do, and then you're detached. So anyway, my life got worse and worse, almost been brutally attacked and so on, and obviously now I go to the church here and again, never really but my faith has gone completely. And obviously it's kind of a phase as well. But what really brought it on initially is when I was looking at out-of-body experiences and portals and travelling through time slips and all this sort of stuff, which led me on to these children having rapture dreams and visions, which I didn't even know existed. I didn't know what rapture meant or a vision, but and then obviously that led me on to like these drug people that were having Jesus encounters, and other people and adults and whatever. And I was watching more kids that were having rapture dreams, and it led me on to that. In actual fact, some of the younger ladies that were Christians that had close encounters with Jesus Christ, I've tried asking if they're single, because obviously I've never had anyone in my life. And I did some of this in spitefulness as well, when I was in a mood, at times, back in the early days before I went to church and that. And when I was going to use the library computers, or when I was at Nan's or whatever. I don't think I did it when I was at Nan's. I think it's when I was at the library and I had bad days. And I was messaging them saying, "Are you single?" And they, even though they've had a close encounter with Jesus Christ or whatever, they just tell me I'm a sick bastard, saying you need to look for older women. Or they put a picture up with their baby and laughing at me. Or they make a pose of you're a sick bastard. There's actually one person I still got on Facebook right at this minute in time, which I could get a picture of and evidence, where she poses as I'm a sick bastard, and that's Ravit or something like that, and she's a Christian who's had a vision and rapture dream. That's the only one at the moment, because a lot of these rapture dream videos have been blocked, or they've been taken off, or they're not on there. There's also something else that was interesting, and this isn't a stupid fucking person either. However, it's someone from Cape Town. I've only seen this video once because it's been taken down. Oh God's sake! It's one of those illegal sounding type of documentaries, but she's explaining how millions of people are disappearing off of Earth, or big numbers of people are disappearing off of Earth, where God has taken them. And she documents it. You know, it's not a British person. I'm not sure what channel it is, because obviously they've taken that video off. What was her name? No, I can't remember what it was, but she mentioned that, and it's a very interesting video. And again, that's one of those videos that was interesting, where those people really have gone, if they have disappeared. Because, you know, it's just very interesting, that is. 2023 was not too bad of a year, to be fair, when you look at the trouble that was occurring back in 2022 in a mass. All the trouble that occurred is started again in 2024. The setups have been really, really bad this year. 2022, April 2022 time period was bad for setups, but these setups are the nastiest they've been since I've lived in Yeovil. So setups, not 2023. 2023 was a good year, but 2024 things have kicked off. Since November or late October of this year, the threats are starting to become like 2022. Not as bad, but the attitude and the nastiness is starting to increase as well. There's several places, several shops that I phoned up or had communication with on Facebook, being told I'm being mistaken as Cevennes, and not very happy about it, and I mentioned the type of threats that are occurring. There was no trouble, basically. There's a couple of months where they had to calm down, obviously, in some places, but Aldi's, the Garage Street repairs place, and also Halfords, and also National Tyres, I was getting threats. All four of those places, since that message in 2022 area, there was no problems right through for a couple of years until we hit November of this year, and now it's all kicked off again where I'm being mistaken as Cevennes. So Aldi's is calming down a little bit at the moment, but it's not great if you look at what it was prior to that. So all things, the Animal Voice sounds have been bad, because from about 2015, 2016 there hasn't really been many, but that's those specific 2 years we went through stages where it was really bad. But before that is you're looking at about anything after 2011. It stopped basically after 2011, and it's all started again since December 2022, and it's as bad as what it used to be before 2011. So I don't know what's causing animals to speak or what's causing that, but that's all occurred again. Even in the days of Yeovil, even in that bad time period, 21 into 2022, even even at the age I was, you know, I'm in Yeovil, not in the last 2 years, obviously, because the last 2 years have been pretty nasty, been negative. 2023 was a calm year, yes, but it was, there were negative things that were occurring. But let's go back to 21 or 22, I think it was 21, I'm not sure. No, it might have been 22 actually. I came across this lady that looks very similar to the lady that worked in Boots, and she also looks very similar to the lady that's called, well, it's gone out of my head. I know what the name is, it's gone out of my head. How do I describe? I'll have to give you a sort of description of it. Sort of a soft face, sort of rubby type face. If you do a rubby face, sort of, she's soft but sexy, sort of soft. I think she worked in WH Smith's as well when I was ordering Jungle CDs, which were deleted or out of stock at a supplier, or no longer available, or whatever. I'm not sure. Then she worked at Boots Pharmacy at Burnham-on-Sea. I saw her in 2015-2016 area, and that's the last time I saw her working in there. She also almost tripped into me, well, we both tripped into each other, and it was, she said sorry no as she passed me. There was also a prediction by Sue Hudd, clairvoyant, that predicted someone called Helen or Heather, but I don't think that was that person's name, I'm not sure. But I'm using this as a lookalike to the description I'm trying to mention of a specific lady that looks near enough identical to this story I'm about to mention, which is when I did a walk at Barwick in 2021 or 2022. Yeah, so she walked past me and she smiled in a polite way and made a gesture or made a hint as if to say, are you single? She would have only been about 23, 24. I would have been about 39, 40 or whatever it was I was at that time. Now that's incredible, you know, considering many people moan about age or whatever, or digging up me or whatever, and so on. So that was pretty a surprise, to be fair. The thing we had here is when I saw her on a second time, which was I can't remember now how many months later it was. She was definitely pregnant the second time I saw her, and she was with someone that time. But she was definitely, the way she was acting, she was definitely single with what she was applying back at that time. But what happened when she passed me? Her attitude changed. She thought I was Seven. And that Seven business has caused many fallouts throughout the times, including messing up possibilities of sexual partners that are sexy looking as well. So that Seven threat is one of the biggest mistakes in living history that's had to come on to me, thanks to the media showing someone that looks like me for all these problems to occur. But we go back, people are saying that I don't even look like Seven. They're saying that Seven has a more feeble face, but he's more bigger build than me and more harder, and has a different accent to me, and listens to a different type of music because he plays a guitar. That was in the earliest of threats, because someone threatened to smash my guitar up and making a stupid sound, and I just laughed at the very first threat when I was mistaken as Seven in December of just after Christmas of 2016 or 2017, I can't remember what year it was. I mean, there's a possibility it could have been 2015, but I don't think that it went back that far. I'm pretty sure this was definitely later than that. I thought the Liam threat came in later on, but when I was looking at my Deep Depression life story packs, the Liam threat actually came in just a little bit before the Seven threat. So That's not great either. Right, so I'm actually in the church at the moment, and I'm going to just tell you quickly how you disconnect from being a Christian and going back to an atheist. So you sit on the pew, you close your eyes, you put your hands together, like so, like that, and you just say this: Jesus, no. And then it's done. It's as simple as that. Right, so obviously I've done the prayer. It was not a prayer as such. It's where you're disconnecting from Jesus Christ. So I decided to do it as a recording. So I decided to do it properly. I've done it before, but I decided to do it properly this time. And now I'm feeling like a negative energy coming around me, like I wouldn't say it's similar to like when I get a burning problem at home, I guess. It's not quite that, but it's just more of a feeling like it's trying to push you under or something negative around you. So don't ask me what's going on, because I don't have a fucking clue. But we will look onto the subject of Jesus Christ. Why would a loving God want to sacrifice his son to kill him and destroy him? And the other thing is, if a loving God created a loving universe in the material realm, the material matrix, the illusional world, why would a loving God want to create animals that go around hunting each other for food, or paralysing with venom, causing excruciating pain, killing other animals? I mean, just stepping on insects is murder. Everyone does it. They don't realise it. Every animal living. It can't be helped, apart from the smaller insects. Why would a loving God create a world where there's so much misery, violence, aggression, curses, outright nastiness? Because this world is not a nice place. And this is not heaven. So people can do things on earth. People can enjoy things on earth. People can take nice pictures or enjoy days out. But it's not really exactly a very clever place, as a rule. So we're in a matrix. We're in a constructed world full of evil, a psychopathic creator God that's full evil. That's all you got. There's nothing you can do about it. You're stuck. You're born here and you're trapped. And reincarnation, like in other religions, is a soul trap of being stuck in the matrix, which most people want to leave. I'm not exactly sure how you exit the material realm. I think you just have to wait until you die and your spirit ascends to a better place. Because obviously religion is very controlled. It's suppressing. And all these people that write the books, all these religious books, are probably people that are billionaires, like the elite, who, they're high up there, and all they do is laugh at humanity that read a Bible that's full of gullible shit. It's as simple as that. There's never been any evidence to back up these claims of Jesus Christ. And all these tombs and anything like that, they don't mind paying millions of pounds to build things like that, as long as they control humanity. Oh, well, let's build a tomb for Jesus Christ going. Then they're saying, where's his body? Where's the evidence of his body? Where's the skeleton? They put someone else's skeleton in there instead. Simple as that. Jesus may never exist. It might be a fairy tale. These false gods in the Bible, there might be real gods in the Bible. But if they are, they're deceiving gods that they don't want us to know about. They're probably in tune with the higher gods. The people at the elite, at the top of the pyramid, in the eye centre of the triangle, they probably know who God is, the proper God. They're probably in tune to the proper God. And they're giving us all these false gods or demon gods that suppress us on earth or throw us in the fire of hell if fire of hell exists. So, it's pointless. Muslims, they worship the same God as Christians. Allah is just another abbreviation for Yahweh or Jehovah or Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ is the Son of the Father. He's a prophet that came to earth if he existed. There's no evidence. That's the problem. These books are written by specific people. The language, the tone of the language, the interpretations, the accent of the writing in the Bible seems to be by high up people that are serious. It doesn't sound like a friendly organisation that's written those books. Just by the accent of the information that's been translated from. It sounds like a serious lot of people that are billionaires that are trying to manipulate humanity into a load of bullshit. I mean, you do have other things like these girls, these young girls on the internet, on YouTube. They're having rapture dreams, they're having visions, they're seeing Jesus Christ. But the thing is, your mind, if you read up about Jesus Christ and your mind plays on it, it can go into overtime. And when you're asleep, it can send you into dreams which can involve Jesus Christ being in a dream that doesn't exist. And also you've got to look at this technology like HAARP in America, where they use technology to send signals out, or brain waves or stuff like that. So people could be encountering Jesus Christ through the technology of that that's going on. So when people say that Jesus exists or this and that, they're brainwashed because he doesn't. If he does, I'd be very surprised. It takes a lot to convince me, so if I ever have a rapture dream or a vision, I shall let you know. And I don't believe I will, because I think it's a load of bullshit. But like I said, I don't know how to word it. It takes a lot for me to believe. Obviously, now and again, like I told you, I like to play on it and go to church, just for the fun side of it. Initially, I felt fell a bit brainwashed to it, but it's more for the entertainment purposes rather than the religion, and just to get to know rather than. But I did actually pray to God because I thought maybe there is a God, and being such a very serious organisation of the Bible and these conspiracy theorists like Roger Monroe, who was a Satanist, became a Christian. You've got Chuck Missler, who talks about UFOs, who's also a Christian, a serious Christian, by the way. And then Jordan Maxwell, he exposes bits of the Bible as well, saying that there is a God and things are true. Although he does believe that Jesus may be Lucifer, and he has other speculations, but he does have interest in the Bible. David Icke, however, he has the same view as I do. But back then, I sort of got into the Bible and I thought it was conspiracy theorists are mentioned in the Bible. Then maybe there is something true about it. But, as time went past, I started to wake up and realise it's a load of bullshit. William Cooper as well. He did a documentary in 1992 called Behold a Pale White Horse. And he was the one that got knocked off, unfortunately. And he was a Christian. And that's what he was exposing the Bible. Then you've got these Illuminati conspiracy videos. One's a regular one that was regular in 2012. And to me it appears that it's been designed by a Christian or a Christian organisation, because the type of information. There's a lot of stuff that it shows from the History Channel. It starts off with Clint Mansell, Requiem for a Tower, the Two Towers mix, which I believe is from a film called Lord of... not sure what it is now. Lord of the Rings. Whether that theme is in that film, I do not know, but it was used in the Illuminati conspiracies. But this specific one was mostly talking about the problems like the 9/11, my honeybees, where have they all gone, you know, and the bits of the History Channel, and then bringing up Bible verses like Matthew whatever, chapter whatever, and saying God said that the earth is not going to last forever, and that is, it's that video. I'm not sure what it is, but it appears to me that some of these are being made by Christians, even these more serious, documented Illuminati videos back at that time. So a compilation of that is sort of thinking to yourself that there may be a God or whatever, but when you look at David Icke's view, and you look at the way that you've been treated when you've gone to church, and the way your life's worsened, and the fact that there's no help or no guidance and this negative spiritual energy that's been around me, then you have to look at these facts that I've just been mentioning. Like, it goes back to what I was saying like just now. Why would a loving God want to rip his people to pieces or make them suffer in a world that's fucked up? And then obviously there's a 3,000-year-old secret as well that's on YouTube. And he basically says the ruler man is responsible for poverty on earth, and that they need to use the fundamental ingredient that nourishes the ruler man, which is initiatorial force, according to what he says. And he thinks that a government should lead its population. And obviously, if you look going back before we had this revolutionary industrial new creation across the globe, you had people would be like in Western films, shooting each other dead, you know, when they go out anywhere, killing people, eating each other for food, killing animals, using guns to kill animals because animals are dangerous, using bow and arrows with poison on it, darts, you know, whatever. You'd be living like that before you had this world that we have now, of the material, new, revolutionary world, which in some ways is good because it betters people's lives, and it gets rid of the evilness of the ruler man, the creator God, of the evil that people had to live for all these years, and the dangers of facing animals and death, and living safely, and not being able to get comfortable nights, or getting bites from ticks, or being bitten by insects, or being covered in insects when they wake up in the morning, not living in proper accommodations, you know, where you've got buildings now, stuff like that. It's different back in that time. You had cavemen who were struggling to live and had to live with no clothes on in caves, you know. You had crocodiles at risk to going into there and eating people alive or whatever. You still have these risks today. But where this world has changed, where we're in a modern world with like a Sainsbury's store, you have a place, a nice cosy place with nice, you can have nice pillows, you've got manufacturing plants, you can live a lot different than how you used to live, which takes away the evilness. But people would also be people have never had it so good. I mean, they got their consoles, they've got their luxuries, and nowadays they can get a sexy girlfriend at the age of 18. I mean, it was back in the days of before that time, it was all paedophilia, and it was all people were going of any age. It didn't seem to be anything. Well, if we go into the story of Jesus Christ, let's just go into Mary Magdalene and Jesus Christ, shall we? Before I go into the lost manuscript, let's go to the proper Bible, shall we? This is the proper Bible, the King James or the NIV. There's conspiracy just from the actual main Bible that Jesus Christ was in a sexual relationship with this Mary Magdalene. That's just in the main Bible. There's conspiracies about that. You know, Jesus had sex with this Mary Magdalene when she was a girl. So, obviously Jesus was a man. It's not actually documented as the age, but they estimate that it could be around the age of 22 to 25. And Mary Magdalene was somewhere between 9 to 11. But she was a prostitute on this lost manuscript. Now, this lost manuscript might not be a lost manuscript. It might just simply be a piece of information they couldn't put in the Bible because it would make it sound like Jesus is funny. Well, yes, Jesus has been funny, if you believe in that rubbish. So according to this manuscript, when Jesus Christ was in his 20s, he enjoyed sex with 9-year-old Mary Magdalene. And he cleansed her of 7 sins. He said he got his feelings out over her. I don't know what the 7 sins are, but cleansed her of the demonic spirits, cleansed her of this, cleansed her of that. But when Jesus enjoyed sex with 9-year-old Mary Magdalene, he cleansed her of her 7 of her sins. And Jesus got in a sexual relationship with her and remained that way until he had 2 children. There's a possibility that that could be one reason that they crucified him. But it might be hidden from the Bible. That's if the Bible's true, of course, which I don't believe it is. I think it's a load of bullshit. But, you've got to look at that as being a possible theory. And obviously, back in that time, but even in the fucking 80s and 90s, until this modern world came in, it was normal for people to be, weird. The Bible, also, there's speculation that when it was written for a specific time period, and that in 70 AD, or 110 AD, or whatever it was, the Bible ended because it's no longer valid, and it's only valid for one specific nation. So, why is it living on? Why is the information still coming on today, when all that has happened back at that time? They think that there might be a reproduction of it, but it can only be a man-made reproduction of most things. There's a few universal things that are occurring, like planets lining up, solar flares from the sun, floods or whatever, but floods are man-made. That's the problem. You've got HAARP technology that controls the weather. You've got CERN. CERN in Switzerland, if they wanted to, I doubt it's true, but if they wanted to, they could probably wipe out the entire universe using antimatter, or Higgs boson, or whatever particles they need to use to do this. I do remember seeing a documentary where they say they need a Large Hadron Collider the size of the moon just to wipe out planet Earth, so it's probably not big enough for. But then again, they got hidden technology, so you never know. I've noticed the church feels colder than what it is outside. So whether there was a demonic entity in that church or something going across me, I do not know, but spirits do exist. That can be confirmed. But when it comes to Jesus, it could be totally different. Like I said, it could be just a throw-off Bible that they made. So you've got these living creatures or spirits or whatever, but they're twisting the Bible basically to suppress humanity with nonsense from the truth, basically. That's what they could be doing. Right, back to my normal fucking moaning. Right, Crow says no one left. That's the thing. The elite, or people that are high up, possibly have technology to control, or have the hidden codes and messages, or have the capability of causing that as well. Black sexual car mixed with red, white, photo taken of me by a black girl, and Tesco vehicle. There's going to be no such thing as that, is there? So, and I mentioned that Lauren curse, the sexy lady cursed painting, which I'm violated with. I mentioned the Tesco van that just passed. The sun's just started to come out. I'm waiting for the bus. I might as well give you a description of that painting once again. I saw it on the internet in 2015-2016 area. It's got a picture of a lady in her early 20s, white lady. Basically the same type of skin type Britney Spears, the famous pop singer, had. Same colour, same pale type, exactly the same as Britney Spears when she was 22. For smoothness, a whole lot. So her legs are behind the clouds. Obviously part of the body's not fully dressed. She's doing a sexual pose with her lips, as like a straight lip but in a sexual way. She's got her one hand out. She's doing sexual motive suggestions with her body. She's got her one hand shining out with the sun coming out of her hand, shining down on a chap wearing, it's like an old bloke type of clothing, so sort of 40s, 50s sort of clothing, maybe a bit older, but a younger looking face, very similar to the side, if you were to look at my face from a side angle, but it looks like it's a bit younger than me, but I'm not sure what age the actual picture is because I can't remember it that well. The rest of the picture's like cloudy or rainy, and this person's one that's in the spotlight of the sunshine. I saw the painting on a postcard in Yandles in Martok as a violation to start with, and every single day since that time they've been making it sunny or controlling the weather to be sunny around me. But as I mentioned many times, they turned a school child aged about 14, a female, obviously is one of the fat type, and the sort of ones that look negative when they're older, you know, when a woman wearing no sex t-shirt. And then obviously later when we come into 2024, they closed my YouTube channel because I was putting the evidence on there of the sunny days when it's supposed to be cloudy, because obviously I took pictures of the date on newspapers or bus tickets or whatever. And then obviously they started making or causing suggestions of setups to basically tell me that you want to fucking start war with this famous painting that's been put on postcards. We'll start war and tell you to fuck people that rape you as a child, basically. So that's what they've been doing. I won't go into much more detail on that because obviously there's people that are waiting at the bus stop near enough. There's negative, John. Grey sexual car, red top. Blue sexual car. Crow says made up. It's like I said earlier in this video. I lost my temper in the church with the church window a few days ago because of the lies and allegations coming from Voice Sounds of Animals, where the creator God is a twisted, corrupt, sexual slaughter bastard. Right, rest of problems. Supposed to be with an old age pensioner, said. There's been a few other sets from back issues or whatever. Wuss, said by Andre, who's the bus driver on the 81 bus, as he's reversing the bus in the bay at the bus station. And the 81 bus is South West coaches from Yeovil that goes to South Berwick and back. There's a few other things I've got them written down.